Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Elite City. We have a lot to talk about this week. So all the way up from the Great White North, Mr. Rick, how are you today?
Good. Yeah, it's definitely been a week
Yes.
since the last time we did this. It's definitely been a week.
Yes, it's definitely been 7 days.
Yes, but like 30 days of stuff happened. So
minimum 30 days.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're gonna have to start out on a sadder note, but we'll get these out of the way. We're gonna say rest in peace to WWE referees Tim White and Dave Hebner. You grew up, well, if you grew up in the 80s like we did, you knew the Hebners, but if you grew up in the 90s, you definitely knew Timmy White and Earl and Dave Hebner. So losing them it hurts the same as losing a wrestler, because like I literally know those guys' faces and who they were and what they did. It's
yeah, they were
sad.
two of the referees that you like back in the day when you knew referees' names. Like those were two of the guys that you definitely knew.
Yes. Yeah.
Two of the biggest name referees who were involved in like the biggest angles. I remember I had when I was like, I don't know, 10 years old, I had a bunch of like wrestling posters on my wall, and that's how I started recognizing Earl Hebner, because him or Dave Hebner was always in the poster. Like he was always there. Like all Hogan posters, all of them, Ultimate War, like they were always there.
Yes.
And that was the age when you started like recognizing referees. And like, yeah, Dave Hebner and Tim White are two of like the big name guys that you remember watching. Like you specifically remember them.
Yeah. And I didn't know this until like people started to post like the matches that Dave and Tim were part of. They are just as much a part of the Attitude Era as Austin and The Rock. Like Timmy White was the ref during the infamous Hell in the Cell between Foley and The Undertaker in Pittsburgh.
Right. And Dave was the, probably the most famous referee angle ever with his brother, with the Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant screw job.
Yeah. That was brilliant. The fact that they pulled that off, that was brilliant. And you know, like I said, rest in peace. Thoughts and prayers to the families and what they're going through. That just, it's awful. But if anything, if we can end this on a positive note, thank you guys so much for what you gave my childhood and my teen years, because that, like you said, we knew the referees then. And
I mean, on a very positive note, Earl Hebner was at TNA's pay-per-view, Impact Wrestling's Slammiversary show. He like had an angle on it. It was great.
Oh, really?
Because his son is a referee for Impact.
Oh, and that's right. I did know that. Okay.
And he got knocked out or something, and Earl rushed in and counted the pin. It was cool.
That's so amazing. That's so great. So yeah, you know, rest in peace, but thank you for everything. And Timmy White, if there is an afterlife, I hope you're up there having a few rounds with Andre, because he was your buddy, and you deserved him and he deserved you. Well, we'll leave it at that, and we will talk about the week that was AEW. We had a special Dynamite Rampage this week. There was the Road Rager tagline, and I very few complaints about these 2 hours. Excuse me. These two shows done really well.
Yeah, definitely. They were. I mean, the cards, especially on Dynamite, was like a, you know what, maybe not an A pay-per-view, but if they were, you know, a company that had that monthly pay-per-views, this would be like their secondary, like their B pay-per-view. Yeah. And it was definitely like a pay-per-view level card.
And the way it was put together, like you had some, well, the first match we'll get into here in a minute was the hair versus hair. It was a long-standing angle, and then you had stuff setting up for Forbidden Door. I mean, it was nonstop. It was so good. Like, eventually they'll have a stinker and we'll have something to complain about. But
yeah, I have like minor complaints about the show. Like nothing huge, but like there are some. But...
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say it was perfect, but like I said, there's very few complaints.
Right.
It was just what a week. There's certain things we're not going to talk about, but in AEW we're going to talk about everything here. So let's start off with the very first match of the week on Road Rager. We had the hair versus hair match, Jericho versus Ortiz. I was very surprised how this match ended. I did not see it going this way.
Yeah, there was.
What a
story. I would have bet money on Jericho losing. Like I was very, very certain that he was going to lose.
I think I even texted you and was like, "Oh, too bad we already know how this ends" or something.
Yeah, I was sure because I mean, when was it at the pay-per-view when people started pointing out like, "Oh, Jericho's bald spot's getting pretty big." I really thought that he watched that match and was like, "Yeah, I have to shave my head, and the best way to do it is to do an angle." I really thought that was going to happen.
And especially like going on to his road to how he's saying he's 2-0 and hair versus hair match. It's like it was just setting it up to
fail. Yeah, definitely. I was 100% sure he was going to lose.
Yeah, and great match. First off, I have in the notes. I was a great showing by Ortiz. He showed that he is more than a tag team wrestler.
And he's more than the position that Santana and Ortiz have been in for a lot of their time in AEW.
Yeah, definitely.
They've kind of just been like group guys. They haven't been like individual or team stars. They've been their whole time. They've kind of been backup guys.
And I think we both mentioned it last week. I think this is the Jericho thank you for what you've done, and he's gonna put them on the next level. In my opinion.
Yeah. And speaking of next level, Eddie Kingston is over as over can be. Like he's.
I have a theory for Blood and Guts. I think Jericho gets his head shaved, but I think Eddie does it in Blood and Guts for no reason. Do it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Like Eddie is like the most popular guy there, like in terms of crowd reaction, like sustained crowd reaction. Like other people might get big pops when they come out.
Yeah.
But like throughout the matches, they're chanting for him. They're like everything he does, like he's over, and he deserves to be.
As he does. Yes, he does.
We go on and on about him every week, but yeah, another great Eddie performance.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to complain about. I mean, he's the man, pretty much. I mean, we'll just say that. I mean, put a belt on him eventually, because the people are behind him. And then when that heel turn comes, though, he's gonna be.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna be a big heel. Let's just say right off the bat, how great is Regal on commentary?
Him and Jericho are hilarious. It's wonderful.
It is so good, and him referring, I laugh every time he calls Excalibur Mr. Man in the Mask. It is so good.
And I like because he's starting to, like when he first showed up, he was like, Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, Man in the Mask. I don't know who you are. And now he's like starting to, oh, you know things. Oh, okay. Now I like you.
Yes. We had at the end of this match, there was it actually started a hashtag. We had Sammy disguised as Fuego.
Yes.
Who hits Ortiz with the bat.
I bought it. I bought it as Fuego. I thought it was Fuego when it first. Like,
I did for a second too.
When they showed him closer and the mask didn't fit properly, I was like, oh yeah, that's not him. But when he first came in, I was like, Fuego del Sol? What?
Yeah. I was actually happy about that at first. I was like, oh my God, he's going to be like, they're pushing him to the moon right now.
Yeah.
And it started the hashtag Justice for Fuego. That Fuego is over.
I like it because I like Sammy and Jericho together. Like they're, especially as heels, they're both really good at playing like really obnoxious heels.
Yes. And Ty is going to join that that group, and she is going to be right there with it. She is going to be she's going to be obnoxious on the best level possible.
This feels like there's an end game now, because I didn't get what they were doing with Ty Conti, because she went from like wrestler to kind of valet. Like she wasn't really a wrestler for a while. But like this makes sense now. She's part of this group. She's gonna be like the woman in the group.
Yes.
It fits now.
It was a great setup for Blood and Guts, but I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna put Ortiz shaving his own head was cool. That was the coolest end.
That was
hair
cool.
versus hair match I've ever seen.
Hey, I've never seen that. That was really cool.
Because he was like, "It doesn't matter to me, Chris," and he just started shaving his head. Like, it was so awesome. It was, the setup for Blood and Guts. Blood and Guts is gonna be. I always doubt Jericho, and then he puts this group together, and I didn't care about any of these. Well, Daniel Garcia cared about him, but like 2.0, I thought they were cool, but like, I'd rather hear them talk than watch them wrestle.
Right. Are they gonna do 6 versus 6 now? Because now each team has 6 guys.
Ooh,
because Jericho Appreciation Side has Jericho, Sammy, Hager, 2.0, and Garcia. And then you could do
Eddie,
Santana, Ortiz, Eddie, Moxley, Yuta, and possibly Danielson if he comes back.
That. There you go. There's your 6. That'd be great if Danielson. Well, it would be great if he's hurt real bad. So that was coming out wrong. If Danielson is hurt, it would be great if like Eddie was like, "Screw it, we'll do it with 5."
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder. We don't know. Like, there's conflicting reports on Bryan Danielson, so we'll have to.
And
we'll have to see.
And we don't like to speculate here, so we'll just leave it as for what it is. I guess we'll maybe find out this week. The thoughts on the hair versus hair match in general.
It was good. I mean, hair versus hair matches generally seem like it seems kind of like a lame. They usually use it. I mean, from what I've seen in WWE, hair versus hair matches, which is the only ones I've seen. It's kind of like it always has a comedic undertone to it. Like they have a funny, like, we're going to shave your head thing at the end. And they always kind of do it as a joke. Which I get why they're doing it. They're like, we're going to humiliate you. But this was a very intense hair versus hair, like a very intense feud, a very personal. It was good. And the way Ortiz shaved his head at the end fit with that. Like it wasn't like a funny, jokey thing. It was a very serious. It was good, and it's great for the build for Blood and Guts.
I totally agree. Going back to Ortiz, it was almost like, it's hair, dude. I don't care. It'll grow back. I just want to fight you. Let's go.
Right.
Like I thought that was very well done. And I mean, they came out swinging with the hair versus hair match. And then we got the Wardlow. I'm gonna first the People's Court intro was wonderful.
That was brilliant.
It really was. I mean, they know their demographics age, and that everybody.
Yeah, like a 20-year-old has no idea what that is, but like, we get it.
Yeah, totally. I even commented to you. I was like, "The People's Court. That's so awesome." Obviously, everybody knew. We're not going to talk about this for hours. Everybody knew how this match was going to go.
I get why they didn't do it. I was a little disappointed that he didn't actually pin everyone.
I agree.
I know the rules were confusing. Like, you could be thrown out of the ring, or you could just be stacked on top of each other. Like your shoulders on. I get that they didn't really need to be rules because it wasn't a thing. Like I understand that, but I know it would have taken like 5 times as long as if he had to individually pin every single guy. Like I get it, but there was a part of me that wanted to see him do that.
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you. Like that would have been absurd, but hilarious. But the stacking people up was good. And the commentary.
It'll accomplish its goal. I mean, he could have put them all on their backs. Most of them weren't even on their backs, but that feels like a nitpick.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. That's why the commentators, like Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone, knew their job, because I think one of them said, "Well, the man's shoulders aren't even down."
Right.
He was 4 high, like poor person at the bottom,
and on his stomach, like he wasn't even.
And like there's 4 guys on top of you, and of course everyone got power bombed on the neck, so the poor first guy got destroyed.
And I mean, you can't really nitpick it because it's a 20-on-1 match to decide a lawsuit. So like, it obviously doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
from a concept to begin with. So.
And like we're gonna leave that at that. But it was fun, and that's what AEW does. and
And
I'll
do you
stay
think
till the end of
you
time.
think that the TNT match is coming up soon, or are they're gonna drag it out? Because they had the thing at the end with Lambert.
Yeah. That's a good question.
I know I agree with you last week when we said it would be nice if Scorpio had a lengthy reign.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long they're going to be able to stretch out a Scorpio Sky Wardlow feud before Wardlow just crushes him.
And yeah, without it hurting Wardlow.
Right.
And unless
And Wardlow's over, so should you just give him a belt because he's over, and let him run with it?
I mean, obviously, Dan Lambert is going to have. They'll have a quote unquote plan. So if they would do it, I mean, I could definitely see it happen. Excuse me, I could definitely see it happening at Forbidden Door.
Yeah.
But
and if they put it off, Battle of the Belts is what, August? They could stretch it out a month. They could stretch it out a month and a bit.
Yeah, they could. That makes sense. Yeah,
have him fight Ethan Page first, and have him fight. Lambert could bring in some other guys. Have him fight them first.
That's probably exactly what they'll do. They'll make him climb the mountain, and he will. And yeah, good call. That's probably that's a good call. We're gonna write.
And it'll be obvious, but it'll be fun because I mean, Wardlow's just fun. It is like Goldberg in the '90s. You don't want to see him have a 20-minute match. Like you want to see him crush people and look cool. Yeah, and that's fine.
But the big difference is he actually knows how to wrestle.
Yes. Yeah. He could have a 20-minute match, and he has. Yes. Like he had a really good match with CM Punk. Like he can do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now we're just gonna, as fast as Dynamite and Rampage went, we're gonna go just as fast because we're moving on here.
But yes.
Match of the freaking night. Dax Harwood, Will Ospreay.
Strangely enough, Dax Harwood might be having one of the best wrestling years in a while. Like tag team and singles. He's had several really good matches, both with FTR and on his own.
Yes.
Like I had no idea he was a good singles wrestler until like a few months ago, and he's great at it.
I'm trying to think what it was on. It might have been when he was on Renee's podcast. He talked about how they decided they were going to be a team, or they were put together as a team, and he was like, all right, well, that's what we are, and that's what I'm going to do. And like when he had his first singles match, that was like his first singles match in like 4 years, and that blows my mind.
Yeah, and he's so
real,
good. Like he's so good.
Yes, that's real dedication to your craft.
Yes.
We had a 50-50 crowd a couple times during the last week, but there was a major 50-50 crowd during this. People were just stoked to see Ospreay, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
But they were going back and forth. The technical wrestling that these guys put together was phenomenal.
Yeah,
it was a joy to watch. It was a great story for having a weak feud. Well, we'll put feud in parentheses, like
right.
A few back and forth words maybe, but it was so good, and they just sucked everybody in. I mean, I don't even think we actually even sent text during that.
No, because usually before the podcast, I'll look back to see what I texted you during the show, just to be, this is what I was thinking. I think I said nothing other than like, this is amazing. Like I didn't say anything else.
Yeah, we were both, just enjoying what they were giving to us.
Yeah, that was like a wrestling match. It was good.
Yes, yeah. The near falls, everyone had meaning. Like, if that makes sense. Like, you were to get up. Oh, yes. You were.
Yeah, and you could see either of them winning. I mean, I thought Ospreay was going to win, especially because he lost the tag match. So I was pretty sure he was going to win. Yeah. But I wouldn't have been surprised if Dax won. So every time I bought into a lot of false finishes.
Yeah, that's right there with you. That it was so well done. Like you said, Ospreay, he got the win. We gave them match of the night, but we're ahead of the game here. We talked about Orange last week, and we said he's due. Boom, Orange Cassidy comes back.
Yeah, he's an interesting opponent choice for Ospreay. I mean, it's going to be some people don't like it, because I know some people just don't like Orange Cassidy, which I understand. I like him, but I get it.
I do, but I don't. Like I love Orange Cassidy, but I don't see how people can't like it. It just boggles my mind.
Yeah, because I mean, when you first see him, you think, oh, how can this guy be good in the ring? His whole thing is like being lazy and not caring. But like
Right.
once you've seen him be in like 2 matches, then you're like, oh, I get it. He's lazy, not caring until he cares, and then he's very good.
Yes, and it's entertaining when he doesn't care.
Right.
like he does his quote unquote character to the T.
Right.
It's very well thought out and very well planned.
Like the match is going to be very good.
It's going to be spectacular. It's going to be, well, it's just like this match. It's going to be technical. There's going to be probably a little more high flying.
A little bit more. Orange Cassidy is more high flying, yeah.
Yeah, and so does Ospreay. So we'll see some stuff.
The rumor is it was supposed to be Andrade against Ospreay, but they won't let him because they have AAA and CMLL have a thing. I don't even understand the thing, but and they blame each other for not allowing it. So yeah.
I mean, as cool as AEW is with having people have other contracts in other places, it's really weird to me that Tony didn't say like, no, dude works for me. you put your little petty stuff aside.
Especially because if it is AAA, I don't know. I've seen people saying it's both companies' faults that this is happening.
Yeah, same here.
But if it is AAA, I mean, FTR holds the AAA titles. Like they could just keep them. if AAA is not going to work with them, right? Like they could just keep them.
Right. How funny would it be if Tony would book FTR versus someone from Japan and have them drop the AAA
right
just to be an ass. Oh, excuse me, shouldn't swear.
But yeah, it's too bad that it's not Andrade. But I mean, Orange Cassidy is going to be a great match.
Oh yeah, it'll be a wonderful match. My question to you here is, I think we hit on it a little bit last week. Do you think there's going to be any like overstaying is the wrong word. Do you think there's going to be any leftovers after Forbidden Door, or do you think Forbidden Door ends and New Japan people get on planes and fly back to Japan, or do you think they'll kind of slowly phase these guys out?
I think they could, like, especially some of the North American guys, not to be insulting to anyone who's Japanese, because obviously they're also incredible wrestlers and probably great people. But some of the people like Ospreay or Jay White will probably have an easier job getting over in North America because they speak fluent English. So I could see either of them sticking around, maybe not on a full-time basis, but on a occasional basis. And I could also see some AEW guys going to Japan. I mean, we know Danielson wants to go there. We know Moxley wants to go there and has gone there.
Yeah.
I could see that being a thing where for a week or two, Moxley's not on AEW, or because he's in Japan and you know, Ospreay's in North America. Like maybe they'll trade for a while.
That makes sense, and especially with some New Japan guys actually living here. Like,
right.
You know, Jay White and I believe Ospreay both live in Florida, I think.
Right. And now that travel's a lot easier. It is easier for them to do a show in AEW and then fly to Japan as needed.
Yeah, well, like they said, Ospreay, he wrestled like literally the night before and then got on a plane and wrestled at Dynamite.
Yeah, didn't he wrestle on Rampage and then flew to Japan, wrestled, and then flew back? Yeah.
Like that's absurd. That's like 40 hours on a plane round trip.
Yeah.
that is absurd.
I mean, I want them to stick around. I want a couple of, I like the, I know AEW has it's not a slippery slope. It's a kind of, it could be a potential issue because AEW, I mean, already has a very large, very talented roster. Right. So I can see the argument of, you know, you don't have time to put Hangman on every show. How do you have time to put, you know, Jay White on your shows? I get it. Like, I get that that's a potential issue because you always want to showcase the guys who actually work for your company.
Absolutely.
But it also makes it a lot more interesting to have them go around, go back and forth, swap back and forth, and it's fun. So
yeah, and since you brought that up, I think that's what is going to happen. Like, you know, like you said, someone might not be here for, well, like Wheeler Yuta when he just did that Super Junior tournament. He wasn't on AEW TV for like what 2 or 3 weeks.
Right. And as long as they explain it properly and you don't get a Sheeta situation where they're like, she's injured. And then she's like, no, actually, I'm not injured. I was in Japan.
Yeah. Like that. Yeah.
They'll iron that stuff out.
Oh, yeah. And it'll become smoother as, as time goes on with the trade back and forth, or even people winning belts. Like, because that's going to happen. Like I said, Lance Archer had the IWGP belt defended on Dynamite. Like, that's crazy. We got Moxley and Tanahashi face to face. I thought this was the coolest thing I've ever seen on television in my life.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it's what I don't know anything about Tanahashi other than I know Moxley really wants to fight him.
He is a fantastic.
But they've built him up really well as someone who is, on par. I mean, John Moxley's one of the biggest stars in AEW and probably North American wrestling. So you have to build up the guy who's going to face him as being worthy of facing him, and they've done that. I mean, JR over the last couple of weeks has done a really good job explaining to people from New Japan why you should care about them and why they're good and what they've accomplished. And it was exciting.
And I mean, I put it in the notes, like, excuse my language here, but just them two standing in the ring looking at each other, the crowd was chanting, "Holy shit!"
Yeah,
that
was cool.
That was on a different level of cool. Yes. And I mean, Tanahashi telling Jericho to shut up. That's all he had to say. It was amazing.
That's the only thing that not really bothered me, but seemed a little weird. It was a Moxley Tanahashi segment building up a Moxley Tanahashi match, and then suddenly they're building up another match.
Yeah,
they're bringing in Jericho and like unrelated wrestlers to that Moxley match, being like, also we're booking another match. Well, I get it; they have to.
Yeah,
I think a lot of things have messed up the plans they initially had. CM Punk being injured and Andrade not being able to compete and the Lucha Bros not able, like they probably had a different plan. Danielson being injured, Adam Cole possibly, like they probably had a different plan for Forbidden Door than the one that they're actually producing. So I get that they had to explain this match, but it kind of seemed like Jericho was just like, I'm here and Sammy Guevara's here, and also here's Lance Archer. He's on loan from here, but he's not going to be in the match because Minoru Suzuki's going to be in the match. And this has nothing to do with John Moxley. Here's Wheeler Yuta. He's going to be in the match. Like, it was just like, okay, what?
Yeah.
And the match will be good, but like it just kind of seemed like let's throw 30 more guys in the ring, and then only 6 of them are in a match. The rest are unrelated. We don't even know why they're actually here. I felt like they could have done that segment not in the Moxley Tanahashi segment. They could have done it. I know Dynamite's packed, so they have to throw it in, and it's casually related because it has Wheeler Yuta and Eddie Kingston and John. Like it is somewhat related. But yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, going back to what you said before too, having Jericho do that, again, not trying to offend anybody, but that eliminated Tanahashi's broken English.
Yes, because there was only so much that he could have done in a face-off with John Moxley.
Yeah,
he's not going to go in a promo battle with John Moxley.
Exactly. That's the polite way to say it, yes.
And I'm guessing they don't want them to have like an actual fight either because they want to save that for the pay-per-view.
Yeah. So, the first time they get their hands on each other is going to be you're paying for it.
Right.
But I forgot to put this in the notes because I'm not that professional. It's now official. We now know that Forbidden Door is an every year event.
Yes.
That is super cool to me.
And I'm wondering if they'll do some in Japan, like if the next one's going to be in Japan.
That was my question for you. I totally could see him going back and forth.
Yeah.
Like you brought up a couple weeks ago, or maybe even last week, how AEW is on New Japan World. There's obviously an interest in Japan for them. So to see, and I mean, half these guys have worked there. I mean, Omega and the Bucks, like they're known to, they've worked Tokyo Dome a million times.
Yeah, you could put Omega, the Bucks, Bryan Danielson, John Moxley in a New Japan pay-per-view without having to tell people who they are.
Yes. Yeah, there will
not they could just show up and everyone knows who they are. You don't have to So
I could definitely see Forbidden Door 2 or whatever they choose to call it. I could totally see the next one being probably in the Tokyo Dome. I mean,
Or they're just gonna upset everyone, and it's gonna be in Chicago again because they're just gonna keep having everything in Chicago, just to make everybody else in other cities upset. And I'm only saying that as someone who's in Toronto and wants to see an AEW show.
Well, the thing that sucks for me is like Toronto. Toronto is actually closer. If it was in Toronto, I could drive to Toronto. I was going to complain about Chicago. Like Chicago is just out of that driving distance, but too close to fly.
Right.
not that I would go there every single time, but it's like, okay, do I want to get in the car for 13 hours?
Right.
Or do I want to spend $400 on a flight that takes 40 minutes? Like,
right.
It's just it sucks. Now, Toronto is like 4 hours for me. So
yeah,
I will gladly take the trip. So yeah, now that we know that Forbidden Door is a yearly thing, I definitely think the next one goes to Japan, and I bet you they do it at the Tokyo Dome, which I'm gonna have to look this up right now. I think it's over 100,000 people.
Yeah, it's huge. And I feel like that's part of the reason, and I can get why people are not upset but questioning. I mean, they're not using all the dream matches right now, like all the matches that people thought about when they proposed the pay-per-view. They're not using them right now, and part of that is injuries or things were out of their control. But I feel like they're also not going to use every dream match right now because they're going to have another one, and they don't want to use every single match they could have done right now when they have, if another one's in 9 months or 8 months or whenever the next one's going to be, they could use them then.
And just looking up, it's 57,000.
Okay.
So I definitely think they could sell a 57,000 seats.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Bucks have done it before, just the Bucks. So
right. Yeah. Yeah, New Japan sells it out. I mean, I know their last Wrestle Kingdom, the attendance wasn't great, but it was also COVID, so you can't really blame them.
So, we're what a time. What a freaking time to be a fan.
Yeah.
What a time to start a podcast, actually. It's actually too much for us to talk about every week.
And otherwise, it's going to be like a 3-hour podcast.
Right. Yeah, if we would have started this a year ago, we would have been struggling to get 30 minutes.
Right.
Let's see. We have Ethan Page and Miro in the All-Atlantic qualifier title tournament. I really wanted Ethan Page to win this. I'm a big Ethan Page fan.
Yeah, I thought Miro was going to win because
same here.
It's Miro, but Ethan Page needs to do something. I mean, not to his fault. I mean, it's not like he's doing poorly. But he needs something. He's kind of just there. Right now he's like other guy with Dan Lambert, who's not Scorpio's guy, and he's better than that. Like he's good in the ring. He's good in the mic. Like he should be doing something. So it would have been nice if he got further in this.
I agree, and I have a little theory on Ethan Page. I think they're playing the long game to split them up, and that
would make sense.
That's going to be
that would make sense.
Because they could take it a million different ways. Like I've had your back since the beginning, Sky, and all I wanted was a shot, and you wouldn't give it to me. Blah blah blah. How about Miro's standing drop kick? Huh?
That was incredible. I audibly stood up. I was like, not audibly, like I stood up when I was like, what? I didn't even like. How big is Miro? How is he doing that?
And I'm jealous because I was in pitcher, so I had a small little stupid. Yeah, I was watching a Wendy's commercial, and you're like, oh my god, what a drop kick! I was like, I know, but it's stupid on the upper corner.
It's so small.
Yeah, that was pure athleticism there. I mean, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
He kicked him in the face from a standing position. Like
Miro is
high jump.
I think JR's even pointed out Miro, since he's been injured. I don't even know what his injury was. But since he's come back, he's in like ludicrous shape.
Yes, he is.
And he was before. Like it's not like he was in bad shape before, but like he's even bigger and even faster. Like it's incredible.
These guys, they had a fight in the ring. Like that was a very stiff match.
Yeah.
To their credit, like that's what they went. They're brawlers. I mean, they're not gonna they're not going to go out there and do 450 splashes through tables. No, they're going to old school chop you and punch you.
I feel like either of them would try, though. If there was an opportunity to do a 50 fetch through a table, I think both of them would try it. I could see them trying it.
And I wrote in the notes, it slowed down the roller coaster that we were on.
Yeah, Dynamite was a million miles a minute. So yeah, it did slow it down.
It was a great slow pace match. I'll probably take flack for that. Like, the slow pace match, what are you talking about? It was needed. It was put in a perfect spot.
Yes, and it was not a bad match or a dull match.
No.
It was just slower.
It was just slower, and it was methodical, and man, did I want Ethan to win that. But Miro won by submission, which again I thought was cool. AEW sells the submissions so well.
I like how they do it because in a lot of companies, not just WWE, a lot of other wrestling companies, the submission is seen. Even JR has mentioned this before. Like, can you believe he would feel very upset if he had to tap out? Like, it's seen as like a worse way to lose than getting pinned.
Right.
But like you're quitting. But AEW doesn't really treat it that way. They treat it as like kind of in a UFC way. Like UFC fighters will tap out. So like,
it's legitimizing the sport. Yeah, it's a great point. And like, we talked about UFC a couple weeks ago and how not every match has to go to the final. Like, you could have a main event pay-per-view last 10 seconds because a guy gets knocked out. Like, you catch someone or you submit someone, hey, it's real. Like, this gives it a little more legitimacy.
Right.
And I totally enjoy all the submission.
Yes.
Now there are we're going to get 2 matches this week. The other 2 are both this Wednesday, correct?
Is the other one on? It's from Japan. It's in Japan. Is it on Dynamite, or is it they're doing it in Japan? I know JR tried to explain it and I got lost.
No, they are here for Forbidden Door.
Oh, so they're doing that match on Dynamite.
From my understanding, yes.
Okay.
It's either going to be on Dynamite or on Rampage. It is definitely the qualifier is this week. From my understanding.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, we know who's going to win the Penta and Malachi Black.
Yes. Likely. Yes.
Well, he's not allowed to compete at Forbidden Door.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So,
that's true.
Unless they somehow say, well, no, it's for an AEW title, blah, 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 blah. But it is going to be a 4-way with New Japan people in the ring. So,
right.
We'll
I mean, even before they announced that, it was pretty obvious Malachi was going to win.
It's going to be so good.
And he should. I mean, he's another person who like had a great. When the knock on AEW is people have huge debuts and then kind of flounder, and he's not floundering. I mean, he's still doing great stuff.
Correct.
But he's not. He hasn't had like the singles run that you thought he was going to have when he showed up. And I feel like this could be heading towards that.
And it actually makes sense for Penta to not win, because then it would be 2 people from Death Triangle.
Right.
Because Pac/Pac already is advanced. So saying it out loud kind of makes a little sense now. But
and I think JR's pointed out. I talk about JR a lot today. JR's pointed out before that like a singles guy should almost always beat a tag guy. In most cases, and it's true. I mean, and sometimes they don't, and that's fine. But in general, like the best tag team in a singles match should probably lose to the best singles guy, and vice versa. 2 singles guys in a team should probably lose to a great tag team.
Yeah, you're exactly correct. Moving right along, we had the Britt Baker and Toni Storm match from earlier in the night. Toni had she had a backstage. Was it a backstage or was it in the ring? It was a backstage.
It was backstage.
Backstage. And I didn't think it was going to happen this fast.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a Jamie Hayter match or something instead. Yeah.
And I was like mouth open, surprised that they gave us. I mean, I shouldn't have been, I guess.
Yeah, they announced it like the day of or the day before. Like it was late when they announced they were having the match.
And it was the it Tony proved herself in this match, but Britt also proved that she could wrestle.
And Britt 100% sold me on being injured. 100%.
Yeah, I was right with you on that. I was right with you on that.
I was definitely sure she got a concussion or some neck injury or something. Like I was sure.
Yes. And
to the point where I was like, oh, I feel bad. They're not going to get a good ending because this should have been Toni Storm's big victory. But right. Like, no, she sold it really well.
Very well. And she even, like, when Storm did I don't know what it's called, when you run into the person sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
Hit him with the butt.
Yeah.
Britt even snapped her head back and kind of like wobbled out of the corner.
Right.
We were both like, whoa, is she all right? And
that
then
was
went on for a few minutes.
Yeah, the referee checked on her. Toni Storm backed off, and the referee talked to her. And it was definitely very good selling, very good acting.
And and I even said in the notes, it was a fantastic story that those girls told in the ring. In and out of the ring too. I mean, the promo leading up to it was awesome. Toni Storm got a clean pin on Britt, which, again, totally surprised.
Yeah, not many people. I mean, since Britt turned heel and been the gimmick she is now, she hasn't had very many clean losses.
Yeah. So that was, it was so well.
And it sets up a really good, which I didn't even think they were going to do a women's match at Forbidden Door, but they are. Yeah,
and let's talk about Thunder Rosa having Toni Storm's back again. Now she kind of repaid her. Toni Storm had her back, had Rosa's back the week before, and Rosa came down and took out Jamie Hayter. I like that, but now it's kind of like, are they setting up a tag match?
Right. Which is where I thought they were going to go, to a Tony and
yes,
Thunder Rosa tag team. Tony Rosa, as we were saying, against Britt and Jamie Hayter. That's what I thought it was. I didn't think they'd do the title match this quickly.
I agree, and I'm stoked on it, but it's like it has shenanigans written all over it.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like a Britt Baker interference, not clean.
Yeah, like something's gonna happen in this, or maybe a Toni Storm heel turn, hits her with a chair or something.
And that even makes some sense, because I think they kind of want to find a way to get Britt Baker on Forbidden Door. She's one of their biggest women's wrestlers. So if they could have her involved in a run-in or something, that would work well.
I just thought of this. How cool would it be? You have Britt interfere and just say she hits Rosa with the chair or something, and Toni Storm refuses to pin her, and it sets up a three-way.
That'd be good. That's a good. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah. I like what they're doing with this. I like what they're going with this. I mean, Thunder Rosa hasn't had much as women's champion, and this is good.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. You do something like that, like it doesn't take the belt off of Thunder. Like if, like I said, if she refuses to pin her for hitting her with the chair or whatever. So like Thunder Rosa doesn't have to drop the belt. Doesn't make anybody look weak.
And it makes sense that Britt Baker would want to kind of, if they're buddies, she wants to kind of stop their friendship before they get together.
Yeah, there you go. That's cut this snake off at the head or whatever that.
Right.
That's great. And then we had another great segment in the Hangman.
Yes,
the Hangman Adam Page segment, and Jay White he's not cooperating on letting us in on what he has planned at all.
Right.
For a second, you think he's working with Cole because he attacks Hangman from behind as Adam Cole's at the top of the ramp talking. And then he beats up Hangman and grabs the mic and tells Adam Cole, "You're not getting a title shot either. I don't know who you think you are." I don't know if I've ever seen that in wrestling.
No, it's
coolest double swerve ever.
And it wasn't even like a turn on Jay White Von Adam Cole. It wasn't like I hate you. It was just
Yeah.
I want to pick who I face because I'm the champion. It was cool.
So
I have the same
okay.
issue with this one that I had with the Jericho segment.
Okay.
And not the exact same issue, but similar. I get that they're trying to build up to a card that they had to probably make several changes to, so they have to kind of do things quickly. It was a little weird to me that Hangman came out and said, last week I challenged Okada and I didn't realize that Okada could lose. But now I don't even care about the belt. I want Okada. And then Adam Cole's like, well, you can't challenge for the belt. And I'm like, well, he didn't. He said he didn't want to.
Yeah.
He initially said, I don't care about the belt. And then suddenly they're both like, you can't challenge for the belt. He's like, yeah, that's fine. I didn't actually ask for that.
And honestly,
and the other thing I want to know is Okada actually not going to be there?
Well, that's what I was just getting at. I wonder if they're using this as a fail-safe in case there are some travel issues for people. Like I know, even in here in the United States, like people were just trying to like fly to Florida or something, and flights are getting canceled and delayed.
Yeah, the airports are a mess everywhere. Like they're overrun and they're late and they're slow and yeah.
And so I wonder if they're just kind of playing it like, okay, we're not going to advertise him yet until he's in the United States.
Right.
So I could see that too. But where do you see this going?
I mean, the logical seems logical. Seems like it's going to go to a. I mean, when they initially announced Forbidden Door, Adam Cole came out and was like, "It's going to be all about the Elite and the Bullet Club," and that doesn't seem like that's going to be the case now. So will it be an Elite against Bullet Club?
Ooh.
Because you have Jay White, who said you're not going to get a title match, but he didn't say you're not going to have a match.
That's a good point.
I mean, they may not have a New Japan title match on the show. They might have Jay White on the show, but he may not be defending the title. He may be in the a multi-man, a 6-man or something instead.
Oh, what do the Bucks have anything booked yet?
No, they don't. I don't think. No, and I don't even know what they would have because the tag match that's on Forbidden Door is an ROH tag match.
Well, I was just going to say, what if you had Hangman, Adam Cole, and the Bucks versus Jay White, the Good Brothers, and someone else in Bullet Club.
Right. Yeah.
I mean that gets more people on TV.
Yeah, I don't even know who's in Bullet Club now.
But there's so many. It's like saying, "Oh, wasn't he in the NWO?" Like everybody was. Like I was for like 5 minutes. I mean, I had the T-shirt in high school.
I mean, they could do a 3-way thing too. They could do Adam Cole and Red Dragon, and then the Bucks, and they could do a lot of ways. They could go a lot of places.
Oh, so yeah, they did Adam Cole and Red Dragon, the Bucks and Hangman, and the Good Brothers and Jay White.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my TV might explode.
The only reason I don't know if that'll happen is because I feel like the reuniting of the Bucks and Hangman might need to be a slower, like a longer build, and Forbidden Door is next week.
Well, that's true. Good call.
But I don't know.
There's so
they'll do something. They'll do something, and they'll do it on Wednesday. I'm assuming it's gonna be a Bullet Club Elite something of some way.
Yeah. And just your opinion. Totally gonna put you on the spot. Do we see Kenny Omega at Forbidden Door in any capacity? Like not even necessarily saying wrestling. Does he? He's not gonna
be wrestling. I don't know if he'll do a run in. I feel like he kind of has to be there. This is like when you talked about a New Japan AEW event. If at any point you had brought it up in AEW's history, it would revolve around Kenny Omega.
I agree.
So to have him not be there seems odd. But I mean, maybe Okada's not going to be there. I don't know. But I want him to be there. I don't know if he will, but I want him to be there.
Yeah, I think he's going to be there. It's been, I mean, we haven't seen him since. I mean, it's been like 200 days.
Right.
So at least give me a flash of, maybe he comes out after even the main event.
Right, or something. Just even if he just comes out to stand there or like stare down with somebody. Or,
yeah. I oh man, I hope so.
Especially if they're doing another Forbidden Door next year, they could start it now with Kenny coming out and doing something with somebody, and then the match doesn't have to be till next year, so he has all the time in the world to continue healing up.
Yeah, isn't that how WWE did it with The Rock and Cena?
Yeah, first time.
The first time, okay. I was going to say The Rock came back, but he didn't come back. He just challenged him for next year's Mania,
right?
And then it came back sporadically throughout the year,
right?
But okay,
and then once in a lifetime became twice in a lifetime, and etc. And then CM Punk left.
And then we get Reigns versus Lesnar 28.
Yes.
And they only just the feud started last month.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm very WWE. The main event. My God.
Yeah, I think we both said this. I was kind of happy that the Hardys weren't in this match because 100%. I love the Hardys. But if Jeff had been there and been, fit to compete, he would have tried to kill himself. Like he would have jumped off something ludicrous onto something else ludicrous. He's not at the point in his career where he should be doing that on a regular basis anymore. So it was kind of nice to watch it and not be constantly afraid that he was going to do something insane.
Oh yeah, I mean, the insanity that took place during this ladder match to begin with was definitely a young man's game.
Yes,
and you hit the nail on the head, Jeff and Matt for that, too.
Yeah,
they would have definitely been going through the tables or jumping, putting someone through the tables.
Right.
There was,
it seems weird, but it's one thing to see the Young Bucks or Jungle Boy do it versus seeing Jeff Hardy do it, because what Jeff Hardy's been through just in his career, not even his life, just his all the bumps he's taken.
Yes. We say it all the time. Big matches, the Bucks are freaking money.
Yeah, you can't doubt them anymore. I mean, you can say it, and I've said that a lot of their spots in not so much anymore. Actually, they're toning it down. But a lot of their stuff was very set up, contrived. Okay, this guy stands here, and then this guy bends over, and this other guy stands here, and then we do it. And it seemed like, oh yeah, that's a staged move. They're better at it now. They don't do it as much as they used to.
Yeah.
But they're on big matches, they're unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Nick's 450 off the top rope to the floor. Well, not to the floor, but through a table to the floor.
On the floor, yeah.
Was absurd. What? Absurd. That is so scary.
Yeah.
That's that was just badass. I'm sorry. Luchasaurus took the biggest bump of the night. Did they push the ladder over?
They pushed the ladder over when he was the top through 4 tables.
Yeah.
Luchasaurus is ridiculously underrated.
I was just gonna say that, and he's not a small man that did that. Dude's
no, but the stuff that he does in matches, I don't know how big he is. He's very big, but the stuff he does in matches seems like he shouldn't be able to do those things. I get that his gimmick is kind of limiting. He's a masked dinosaur, so I can see them not pushing him as a top flight guy, but he deserves it. I mean, they always say Jungle Boy is the star of the team, and he might be, but Luchasaurus is very good.
He's very good. Let's see. He is 6'5", 275, and he's 37. I would have never guessed that either.
Oh, I'm surprised. But he does some ridiculous stuff. I mean, they all did. This match was crazy.
It was very crazy. Oh wow, he was trained by Billy Gunn. Sorry, I'm
on
Wikipedia. That match was insanity. So, we alluded to, the Bucks are the first 2-time AEW Tag Team Champion.
Yep, it fits for them. I don't think this was planned. I thought everyone seemed this was going to be the Hardys.
I was just going to say that. Definitely going to be the Hardys.
But it fits that the Bucks are the first two-time because I mean they're when you think of AEW tag teams, they've been there since the beginning. They've been the the flashy name. They've been in like a ton of big matches. Like if anyone's going to be two-time AEW champions for the first time, they should be.
And it sets up Bucks Hardys for the belt when
at some point. Hopefully,
when Jeff is hopefully when
hopefully
Jeff
if all goes well.
Let's keep on trucking, Jeff. You could do this. Now we were texting back and forth. The Bucks are celebrating everything, and Tony managed to sneak one more little thing in for us. We had the Christian heel turn, and it was so good.
It was so good.
So good. Because
I mean, you knew for a long time that Christian was eventually going to turn on them. But especially because of this match, you forgot that Christian was going to turn on them. Like you forgot that was a thing, and then it just came up. It was great. And
the way that they you got more of a on fight. You got
fight showed more at the end. I even liked that when Christian came down to check on Luchasaurus, first it was just like, oh, he's checking on his team, he's checking on his friends. And then it kind of seems like, oh, was he just checking to make sure Luchasaurus was like actually hurt so that he could attack Jungle Boy without being stopped?
That's dude. That's
like, awesome. I think that's what it was.
That is, wow. That's some forethought. That's awesome, dude. Good call.
And that
never even dawned on me.
I was actually worried Jungle Boy actually got hurt because that concerto was.
Yeah. Well, let's rewind a little second here. Him with the doctor and Jungle Boy, the doctor, and Christian walking him out of the ring, and the doctor steps through, and then it was like, oh, okay, you have to help him through. So Christian goes to sit on the rope. And then just grabs him and drags him back on.
Yeah, that was great.
It's so good.
So good. And Christian I've loved Christian for 20 years. He's an excellent heel, so he's going to do a great job at this.
Oh, it's going to be so good. And does this now set up Jungle Boy versus Christian, or does Christian get a tag partner?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like he could get a tag partner. Could it be Matt Hardy?
Well, there's that. There's so many options. He could pick up a young guy to quote unquote mentor him and then turn on him. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, maybe he gets Edge.
Yeah.
I mean, now that I brought this up, this was my next question for you. That it was a surprise. I didn't put it in the note. Do we ever see Edge and Christian in AEW? Or Copeland?
I mean, I obviously want to. Everybody wants them to. And I know Edge was actually was in talks with AEW before he came back to WWE.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the thinking is people don't know if that was a sincere interest in AEW or if it was he was just playing. He was pitting the AEW interest because when he was retired, he was in the same state that a lot of WWE guys are, where they got cleared by some doctors and couldn't get cleared by other doctors. So kind of his negotiating with AEW was to be like, hey, if you don't let me wrestle, these guys will. And I don't know if he ever actually had real interest in AEW, or if it was just his way to get what he wanted from WWE. But as soon as Christian turned heel, I was Google Edge's WWE contract to see when it ends, and I think it's next year. But
well, hey, and see, that's the good thing, and that's where I'll never understand where these WWE stands. These I'm not gonna call them idiots. Sorry, these people. They hate AEW with their life, but it gives the people that they enjoy watching a little bit of power.
Right. And when Cody left AEW, I'm talking about Cody again. When Cody left AEW, I was annoyed at Cody, especially when he first showed up at WrestleMania. There was a part of me that was you jerk, how could you? I was
yeah,
but personally. But he's doing great until the injury. I mean, he's doing exactly what he wants to do, and he couldn't do that in AEW. It wasn't working, but he's doing it there, and it's working out great. So it's great. I mean, that people have options. That if your thing's not working out in one company, you can go somewhere else now, as opposed to just you don't work. It doesn't work out for you in WWE. Well, now you're no longer a wrestler.
yeah,
right.
Or go to the Indies and make $12.
Right. So
like
now, like, people have places to go. It's great. I mean, eventually people are going to leave AEW. I mean, other than Cody, these guys aren't going to stick around forever. Someone else as big is going to leave, and you'll be upset because their AEW is the company you watch, and it'll be upsetting to not have them on it. But like, it's good for them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like as I was with you on Cody, like annoyed with them, like, oh, I can't believe you did that, blah blah blah. But hey, not everybody gets to make millions of dollars doing what they absolutely love. So more power to Cody. Go there, I mean, obviously to him, main eventing Mania is something that he wants to do.
Right.
We have talked about this. Like, if you don't want to do that, you probably shouldn't be a professional wrestler. I mean, it's like saying, "Oh, I play in the NFL, but I never want to win the Super Bowl. I'm just happy to be here." Like, no.
I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of AEW guys who like want to be at WrestleMania, and why wouldn't you? It's WrestleMania. It's huge, right? Like, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, that is considered still the top of the game.
Right. And how often are you going to get to wrestle in front of 80,000 people or something? Like, that doesn't come up often.
Yeah, and main event it. I mean, there are people that are just happy to be on the show, like, and that would be, like you said, imagine wrestling in front of 80,000 people, like, unreal. But Cody is what he's doing. Like, I get it. And if it wasn't for AEW, Cody would probably still be in Japan.
Yeah, he'd be another situation where, like, he didn't work out in WWE. Well, too bad.
Yeah, exactly.
And like,
nope,
you have to float around between various companies now because it didn't work out for you.
Yeah,
but now it worked out for him. I mean, he got to do his thing, and just like, I mean, if Edge did pit AEW against WWE to get a better contract, good for you. Like, how many more matches is Edge going to have in his career? Like, if he wants to, obviously wants to make as much as he can and get the best role he can, and good for him.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good for all these people. I mean, it's a good time to be a pro wrestler right now,
and it gives the wrestlers, the sports entertainers, the performers, whatever you want to call them, so much more flexibility and leverage, and you can you have something. I mean, if you're in WWE, and I don't know, say randomly off the top of my head, if you're a women's tag team champion and you decide that they're not booking you correctly and are upset about that, you can now walk out and leave and still be a wrestler. You could still go somewhere else, conceivably, versus just having to suck it up and deal with it, because what else are you going to do? And vice versa. I mean, I'm sure there's people who aren't. If MJF is legitimately unhappy in AEW, go for it. Like, go to WWE, see how it works. You're not there for life. You can sign for a couple of years, and if you hate it, leave.
Yeah, or walk out.
Right.
I mean, legit. I mean, you have that power now.
It gives them so much more power than they used to have. I mean, we wouldn't have CM Punk wrestling if it wasn't for this. Like, we wouldn't have all this stuff.
No way. Yeah, I mean, AEW has done more for the craft of pro wrestling than
the only people who should be legitimately upset that AEW exists is like the people who run WWE, because they don't want the wrestlers to have options. They don't want to be in bidding wars for people. Like, I can see them being upset.
Yeah.
But like, as wrestling fans, like, if you don't like it, just don't watch it, and it's fine. Like, you don't have to be mad about it.
It was the same way in the 90s. Like, when we grew up, like, you had WCW people, you had WWF people.
Right.
I was the weird guy that did both. And like, people are like, how could you watch both shows? Like, it's one or the other.
No, I was all in on WWF. Like, 100%.
See, that there were, trust me, I caught a lot of flack about this.
To the point where, like, a bunch of my friends all bought NWO shirts, and I was like, I'm not getting one. I'll buy a DX shirt. I'll show you.
Yeah. I had both shirts.
Yeah.
I had an NWO and a DX shirt. And that's what, I think I've mentioned it on here before. I used to physically record Nitro, and I'd watch it Tuesday after school. That was
Right.
like I didn't care about spoilers. I didn't get people were talking about it at the lunch table. I didn't care because I watched, like, my main show was WWF, but I still watched because I had to see what the NWO was going to do. Like, I was invested in that.
Yeah, I
And
would like I was like hardcore WWF, but like I would like read on the internet. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds pretty cool. The NWO thing sounds pretty cool. Yeah,
it was
okay, I
awesome.
get
It was
it.
awesome to see. Like, it was awesome to see it happen in real time. Like,
Yeah.
first time seeing heel Hogan was like part of my childhood. Like, was fighting me. Like, you can't like that guy. You can't like him anymore. And I was like, oh, it's better now.
And I know it's never going to be like that because like wrestling is not what it was. Like wrestling is not nearly as popular as it
Yeah.
was then.
Yeah.
But it's still cool. I mean, I love having two companies now where it's a thing. I even love having New Japan involved where like who from New Japan is going to show up? Like
Exactly.
it's fun.
Just randomly, just this past week, I was gonna text it to you and I totally forgot. I was reading a random article. Do you realize in the 90s, Nitro and WWE each week had 10 million viewers
Like a total, yeah.
apiece?
I know that's insane. I know.
Like, people get excited, like, oh, 700,000 people watch Dynamite. I'm thinking
I know.
700,000 people used to watch ECW probably. And
Right.
that's when it was only on the East Coast.
I remember
At
I
3 o'clock in the
told you a
morning.
couple days ago when they were talking about how Raw had one of the lowest attendance since the pandemic of like 4,000 people or something like that.
Yeah.
I was at Raw at the Skydome with 45,000 people
That is so
at
absurd.
Raw.
At a
Like
Raw,
just
right.
a random episode of Raw. Like it wasn't like there was no title matches. There was just like some episode of Raw.
Oh. And when you sent that picture of that opening, or not picture, when you sent that video of the opening, I totally forgot, like, the amount of signs that used to be at Raw. Like, there were literally signs, like, for people sitting in the rafters. You would never be able to see their sign.
Oh, I had a sign. I was like the third row from the back, and I had a sign.
Of course you did. Like, I think I told you, I made a sign with my email address on it, like an idiot, and I had a big arrow that said "email me," and there's my email address. Yeah, when I got home and turned the PC on, people were not kind. Let's just say that. And I didn't have a great seat either, so like, people actually saw it, and it was either in person and wrote it down, or I was bullied for a long time. But it was awesome. I had to change my email address.
Yeah.
And as we're going to continued right on to Rampage.
Yes. One last thing. You briefly mentioned the Christian like telling off his family at ringside. I think it ended up on Twitter the next day, but like telling off his family and like them fighting back, being like, "You're a nobody."
Jungle Boy's sister, I mean, she got F-bombs. She didn't care. She said, "Tony, this ain't gonna be on TV. I don't care."
And him going to his mom, being like, "Yeah, it's his birthday. He's gonna drink his birthday cake through a straw."
It was so good.
That was great.
It was great. It was great. And like you said, he is such a good kid. And this new road for him it's going to be great. Like, it's just
I want to see where it goes. It'll be fun.
Yeah, we talk about this. It's a reoccurring theme. It's fun.
Right.
It's not a chore to watch like the other products.
Right.
Sorry. But again, going a million an hour. Are you kidding me?
I absolutely love that this started because Jericho and Taz were on commentary, and it started off with Taz and Excalibur talking about the match, and then Jericho chimes in going, "Hey, nobody asked me what I think yet," and Taz will go, we just started the show. Calm down."
Yeah.
It was great.
Jericho and Regal on commentary during this
that was great too. Jericho's annoying on commentary, but like when he has someone to play off like Taz or Regal, it's funny.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And excuse me, they like, that's all ad lib. There's no script. Like, that's how quick those guys are.
Right.
Like Taz telling, like you said, like, "Oh, the show just started, dude. Chill." Like, I mean, it's I was honestly surprised at Dante Martin's wrestling ability
Yeah,
in this match.
I feel like that's the story they were telling, that he's like
Yes.
he wrestled John. He didn't high fly as much. It was more of a wrestling match for him, and I feel like that's kind of the story they're telling of him learning from what has he had, like 3 matches against Mox now.
Yes.
And I feel like
yeah.
they're telling a good story, like they told with the Wheeler Yuta matches against Mox. Every match he's getting a little bit better. He's getting, yeah, it was good.
Well, I didn't put this in the notes because this was another little surprise off the top of the head here. Regal dropped a few little hints. Do you think Dante's the next member of the Blackpool Combat Club?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like that's where the way they're going with this, and I feel like what I'm thinking is the way it could go is, could he be the first person who doesn't want to be a member, like Regal and say he beats Moxley, and then William Regal and Moxley come out and they're like, "Yeah, you can join." He's like, "No, I'm good."
Oh, that would be very interesting. That would be very interesting. Okay. Now in the notes,
especially because he did the little thing with Team Taz where he joined and then didn't join.
Oh, yeah,
maybe he could have a little thing with them too. Because I mean, he's gonna. Hopefully, his brother comes back at some point again, and they reform their team. Yeah. So maybe he's kind of biding his time for that. I don't know.
Well, it is in the notes here. In your opinion, is Dante ready for a belt?
I think he is. I think he's like, since his brother's been out, he's been pushing, top tier, close to main event status a lot of the time.
Yes, he's done very well without his brother.
And that's where you think AEW has a lot of belts, but which belt would he go for? Because the TNT belt Wardlow's going to win, and he's not going to lose it for a while. Dante's probably not world champion level. And we don't know yet what they're going to do with the All Atlantic. Is it only? And Tony said it isn't only foreign wrestlers, like non-American wrestlers. But is it going to be non-American wrestlers for a while? I don't know.
Well, I was going to say, don't forget, there's Ring of Honor belts that.
Right.
I mean, there's the TV title, which we're going to get to that.
I could see him doing well in Ring of Honor for a while because there's not much for him right now in AEW. So
he is like the prototypical Ring of Honor wrestler. Little bit of a high flyer, not a huge muscle head. Obviously can wrestle. We found that out. So, he's not just flips and twists. He would be a perfect fit, for my opinion, in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, I really wish Ring of Honor would get that TV deal or something, streaming deal, or so they could have a weekly show.
I thought we would know by now.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, there's talks. And
right.
There's way too many rumors of, like, specific actual platforms. Like, we've talked about HBO Max because they're owned by Time Warner, and maybe even their own separate thing, which I hope not, because I don't want to have to subscribe to anything else.
Right.
I hope it's already into something that I have.
Right.
Now, since I just found this out, does HBO Max exist in Canada?
No, not really. But a lot of the HBO, we have a service called Crave, and they own the rights, the Canadian rights to all the HBO stuff. So if it's on HBO in the States, it ends up on there here.
Okay, so
they're like the Canadian carrier of it.
Okay, so that is so odd to me. What did I ask you if you had the other day? Hulu.
Hulu, yeah.
And you're like, it doesn't exist here. Like,
yeah, the Hulu. A lot of the Hulu stuff is on Disney Plus.
Now, see, why can't they do that here?
Yeah.
Well, we'll go off on a tangent here real quick. They make you in the United States. Talk about being backwards. There's the Disney Plus bundle, which gives you ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and Hulu.
Right.
But it's Hulu with commercials.
Right.
So I was like, I don't want that. Just give me Disney Plus. Like, I don't want to watch commercials if I'm paying you for it.
Right.
Like, if Hulu is free, I'd take it, but no.
Right. Yeah, we don't get like how like Raw and stuff are on Hulu. We don't get that here.
Ah, okay. That's weird. See, to me, that's just me being ignorant. Like, I just figured it was I literally figured it was everywhere. I mean, it's on the internet. Like, why wouldn't it be offered in
Yeah, it's
other
odd that it's
places?
not. I used to be able to watch, but when it was only free, like whenever Hulu launched,
Oh
10 years
yeah,
ago or whatever it was,
okay.
you could watch it here. But then once it became a paid thing, you have to have like a U.S. credit card to sign up for it.
Like, why you're a multi-million-dollar company? Like, what's it matter that the Canadian dollar isn't? It's not like it's worth like a cent.
Right.
It's not that
There's all
much
kinds
less.
of like there's all kinds of rights things. Who owns the Canadian rights to things and U.S. rights, and it's very confusing.
Oh, it's so dumb. Sorry, if you're taking people's money, they should just be able to watch it.
Right.
Moving on. We're we're a wrestling podcast, not a
Not a streaming media podcast. Yes.
yeah, the complains about what's in Canada and the United States. Swerve, Keith Lee, little tension backstage. Do you think we're seeing cracks in the foundation of?
Yeah, and I liked the segment because I mean, what Swerve said actually made sense. We are a tag team, and that was not a tag team match. So
I'm right there with you.
So what are you gonna do? But also, like, you get why Keith Lee was upset. Like, you didn't need to eliminate me. You could have waited. We could have worked together. Like, they both have a valid case. So it's interesting that like they're like one of them isn't necessarily the heel, because I mean, Swerve was kind of the heel, but he explained himself, being like, no, and it made sense. So I don't think they're going to break up like tomorrow, but I think it is heading that way.
Well, as much as the cracks were forming during that segment, as soon as Hobbs and Starks showed up, it kind of patched itself right up. They
Right.
told him, get good, because we're waiting for you.
Right.
That's a feud I want to see.
Yeah, I've been waiting for them to have a singles feud for a while. Like, I mean, a singles tag team feud, not involving another team.
Yes. Yeah. So let's, if that's going to lead to the end of Keith Lee and Swerve, let them go for a couple weeks, months, back and forth with Hobbs and Stark.
Hobbs and Starks they're another team that needs to be, they should be higher than they are. And it's not through their fault. Just like it's not, Santana Ortiz's fault or Dante Martin's fault or Ethan Page's fault. There's only so many spots, obviously. But I mean, yes, Hobbs and Starks are great.
And with Hobbs and Starks, I've noticed this since they brought Hobbs into Team Taz. They make, if you give them 2 minutes or 2 seconds, excuse me, they make the most out of that 2 seconds.
Yeah,
they don't need a whole segment.
Didn't they have they have like 2 lines in the segment, but it worked.
Yeah, like they literally walked on screen and said, "Oh, you better fix this or whatever," in layman's terms, whatever they said. Like, get your act together. We'll be waiting for you. And then they just walked away. It was perfect. Now, speaking of promos, my God, the AEW production team and filming crew and editing staff, Malachi and Penta promo was like a mini movie.
Yeah. And when I first started, I forgot that there was a what's the title called? All Atlantic title match coming up.
Yes.
I forgot that they were in that. So then I was like, oh, they're keeping this feud going. I was a little surprised that their feud was still going, but like, okay, that makes sense. Now I get it. Yeah.
Malachi Black is he's doing things that we have seen before in wrestling, like playing the leader / cult, whatever you want. I mean, you could basically say they're kind of doing what the Wyatt family was doing. And the attention to detail in the Wyatt family was, I mean, Bray Wyatt in his wrestling mind is different in a good way.
Malachi's promos make more sense than anything Bray Wyatt said.
I was just going to get to that. Everything Malachi Black says, like, you can look up and he'll reference like some sort of deity from some obscure religion.
Right.
It's like, and you're like, oh, okay. I had to Google that, but my God, this guy's on a different level. He got that into a wrestling promo.
That'll be a fun match. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, they're gonna bring it. Like we said earlier, unfortunately, it looks like Penta has to lose this because of where he works.
Right.
Than AEW.
Right.
Now, as fast paced as we were going, the next match this match was put in for the same reason that they told Ethan Page and Miro to slow down, be methodical. We had Platinum Max and the Ass Boys versus the Bear Country and Leon Ruffin, and they called their tag team Ruffin It. Thought that was hilarious.
The fact that they even had a name was great.
Yes, and everybody knows the main reason that this match happened was because of some other things that are happening in wrestling now.
You wanted Max to do a rap,
and that's exactly what the next thing is on the thing. And again, we'll hit what he hit on topic, but we're not going to get into it because
we all signed NDAs.
Yes, we don't know the facts yet and what's going to happen, but Vince McMahon's in a boatload of trouble, it looks like, and he's finally, things are catching up to him in his awful human being.
I mean, last week we just talk about how wrestling's filled with awful human beings?
Yes. So there you go. But Max's rap, as you said, we were all forced to sign. He had a bunch of things to say, but he can't now because he was forced to sign an NDA. My God, is he still hilarious?
These two teams, the Ass Boys and what's their team name again? Acclaimed. Yeah, how did I forget that? Everyone loves the Acclaimed. These two teams, they're not like the most. If you looked at AEW tag teams, they're not near the top. There's so many tag teams that are like more athletic, more established, more whatever than they are. Neither of these gimmicks seem like they should work. Like the Ass Boys seem like they should be like the Gun Club, whatever. They seem like they should be like a jobber team, basically. They're like Billy Gunn's loser kids, right? But and Max Caster's gimmick of like rapping, and I mean they're low. It's a lower level gimmick right now. It's like a comedy gimmick most of the time, but like they do so well with it that they're so over. Like this group with the four of them together, I was like, why? When they started, like this makes no sense why they're together, but they're hilarious. And Billy Gunn. And Billy Gunn. Yeah. It like it goes over so well that they do such a good job. They're another team that like, they didn't have that much time on TV, but like they're using it and they're doing really well with it.
It's one of those things like if I told you 2 months ago, I was like, dude, just trust me.
Yeah. Trust me, the Gun Club and the Acclaimed are going to be hilarious. I'm like, really? Seriously?
I'm like, dude, trust me. Like, nobody would ever in a million years believe
I'd be thinking like, oh, maybe they'll have a match on Dark, but that's it. Like I would never see them as like a big thing, but yeah, they're doing it well, which actually reminds me of the original New Age Outlaws, because when you thought like, oh, let's partner was it the Roadie at the time, I guess Road Dogg was with Rockabilly. I'm like, that's going to be a terrible team that no one cares about. Like
it took that.
They made it work too.
Fame, huh?
Yeah.
It's you look forward to it.
For sure.
And it
has crowd participation. I mean, the crowd gets into it. Even the cheesy thing of like the Gun Club getting the city name wrong every time.
I cannot wait till they're in Pittsburgh next time, and one of them
because he's gonna call it Philadelphia. Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah,
that's actually something I missed from the Attitude Era, where a lot of the stuff in the Attitude Era doesn't fly today, and it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like it was.
Yeah.
But a lot of this, one of the things that I missed from the Attitude Era is everyone had like a little thing they do, or not everyone, but a lot of people had a little thing they do before they had their match. Like, the Godfather or Val Venus or, Al Snow, they'd have a little thing, like a little promo or something before their match, and a little catchphrase like the New Age Outlaws had or whatever. And they're doing that, and I like it.
As you see those three random people, I was gonna come out and say, "Oh yeah, they did this," and then I was like, "Well, no, I can't say that. Like, no, I can't say that. No, can't
Right.
say I mean,
So
even the double entendres with them,
yeah.
like it's like you still can't. Like,
So just saying the two things I just said, how they remind me of the New Age Outlaw starting, and they remind me of, I mean, New Age Outlaw promos. You could tell Billy Gunn has some sort of something to do with this.
yeah, absolutely.
This seems a lot like Billy Gunn's how you go from being a jobber team to a Hall of Famer. This
Yeah,
is what you do, and he's clearly working with them on it, and it's working.
and yeah, here's the formula. Here's the way we did it.
Right.
Let's add a little bit of new flair to it. Let's add a little bit of comedy to it. Like his son's getting the names wrong. Like it's
Right.
hilarious. It's coming. Like they're
Right.
not gonna ever get it right, but you're gonna laugh every time.
I don't know where I'm assuming they're from somewhere in Texas, the Gun Club guys.
I imagine.
I want them to go to a show that's in their hometown
And mess it up.
and mess it up and get it wrong.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Oh, that there. So again, I'm laughing now. Like now, I want that to happen.
Yeah, it's great. They're funny. I like them.
We had two comedy segments basically in a row, but we had Hookhausen next.
Yes, of course we have to mention Hookhausen.
Well, they were actually on the show this week. We just didn't have to say their names to keep it alive like last week. It was kind of serious. I definitely thought it was going to be like typical Danhausen, funny, and we were going to laugh. And he came out. He said Hook was going to decimate and dominate, and Hook just gave him the old look, and he said, "Don't worry, I got this."
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. Now,
and I have no idea who's in the New Japan dojo, but
I was just going to say I don't know who the person is. But
it'll be interesting because I mean they have to lose. I mean Hook's not going to lose to someone from that we've never heard of before.
True.
So I mean Hook's going to win. So whoever he's facing, like he's going to win. Like when Hook loses, it'll be a bigger deal than this.
Or I just thought of this. What if Danhausen accidentally causes Hook to lose?
Right.
But then again, you'd have to squash Danhausen, and people love Hookhausen.
Right. Yeah. So, this will last for a while.
Oh yeah. Let this go. I hope there's never even a blow off. Like if they split them up, I just hope like Danhausen acts like, "Hey, where have you been?"
Yeah.
And he's just like, "Dude, like get away from me." Like, no, seriously, we're a tag team. Like,
yeah. Like again, I don't want to just talk about WWE, but it's my experience in wrestling. It's what I've watched for 30 years.
Right.
That's the one thing that I really like that they've done is with like the New Day, they've never split up. They like go off and do stuff, but like it's realistic. Like just because your friend is fighting for a title doesn't mean now you have to hit him with a chair and hate him. Like you're allowed to like you're allowed to still be friends and do something else. Right. So I would like to see that go there. Like Danhausen could like, go off and do something in, the new Ring of Honor and then come back and be like, "Hey, look, our tag team's back." And Hook be like, "What are you talking about?" Or, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, we were okay."
I'm glad you brought this up. I hope when Ring of Honor comes back, Tony Khan is way too smart. He's probably going to do this. I hope he gets Danhausen a blimp for the first show. And he literally comes in on a blimp, or is at least on it.
Or something. Yeah, like a blimp with his face on it. Yeah.
Yeah, like then he's like, "Thank you, Tony Elite." Right after that, which I think, hold on, let me check my notes here. Okay, the TBS Championship match, I thought it stole the show.
That was a great match. I think Willow Nightingale's not actually signed yet, isn't she? She's not on like a full deal.
No, I don't think she is.
But she should be. I like her.
She 100% should be. She is wonderful. We have a lot of notes on Jade here. Jade is just somehow like getting better and better and better.
And she's like, slowly taking everything about Cody's character that people liked. But like when Jade does it, everyone likes it more.
Because she's doing it as a heel.
Right.
I mean, she even did, almost said F. She did that freaking pedigree.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
And now she has like the when the lights go out, and then the voice goes. Hers is like a storm brewing or whatever,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
then like the pyro, and she comes up, and it's Cody's entrance, but it's just everyone likes it because it's Jade.
Yeah. Oh, it would be great if her music started with wrestling only has one baddie.
It would be great.
And then she starts coming up through the floor.
It would be great. Because clearly,
but,
she did a pedigree. They're clearly hinting at the Cody stuff.
Oh, yeah. And didn't Cody, like, when he left, didn't he wheel her his elevator?
Yeah,
Like,
did he?
Like, I think he literally said, "I want Jade to use it."
Okay, that makes sense then. Yeah, they have the elevator.
Yeah, the Cody Vader.
Yeah, the Jade Vader works out a lot better.
The elegator.
There you go.
Finally, Jade got her hands on Athena.
Yes.
Do you see Athena and Jade, or do you think we get a tag match with Statlander and Athena and Jade and the baddie?
I think we'll do the tag match first. I'm still torn. I mentioned last week. I'm still torn on who's actually going to beat. One of them is going to beat Jade. I think either Athena or Chris Statlander. I'm assuming. Unless someone who we've alluded to earlier shows up.
Well, that's where we're going next. So
yeah,
that was my surprise for you.
Right.
Do you think now we have a couple options here? We talked about it last week. July 7th is Paige's last contracted day. So midnight on July 7th, she can technically sign an AEW contract. She has no 90-day because it'll just like her contract's up.
Right.
And I'm going to look at my calendar real quick. I'm pretty sure that's a Thursday.
Right.
It is. So July 8th is a Friday.
Right.
I don't know how much time Tony has to decide if these are going to be live or not. So if it's, I'm going to throw this out there. If it's announced that there's a random live Rampage on July 8th, Paige is coming in.
Yeah. I don't know. Saying. I don't know. Obviously, no one does. Like her medical situation.
Correct.
I don't know how close she wants to wrestle. I don't know if she can. Like, I don't know how close she is to being able to actually wrestle. I don't know. Like, is it a situation where like one doctor cleared her and the other one didn't? But yeah, that also that ramp. I just looked it up. That Rampage is pre-taped. They're taping it July 6th in Rochester.
Okay. Oh, see, I never even thought of that. I could have definitely looked that up.
But I would like to see her obviously in AEW because she's a good wrestler. She's a good character. I think she'll show up in AEW as something. I don't know if she'll be wrestling or not.
That's what I was just going to say. She's obviously gonna, if she's there as a coach or a manager,
something. Yeah, I could see her definitely showing up doing something.
Now, the person that would be cleared to wrestle, we have, Sasha / Mercedes, whatever you want to call her. Well, she probably wouldn't definitely be Mercedes. Probably wouldn't be Sasha. That's probably owned by WWE.
Right.
Never thought of that. So,
whatever name she will be. Yeah.
Whatever name she will be. Yeah. She is very possibly, from what we're reading, again, this is all just stuff that you can find on Twitter. Like, we don't know anything more than anybody else does, or we're not claiming to know any more than anybody else does. But apparently her lawyers, she has a legal team working on, or she's either working on getting her out of her contract, or they already got her out of her contract and they're looking at semantics now, aka probably trying to get rid of that 90-day.
Right.
So if they do that, I mean, or if that's already done, like, we don't know.
Right.
I mean, we could possibly see her this Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, Sasha. I'll call her Sasha Banks just for ease of calling or something. If she's out of her contract whenever that day comes up, like if it expires at midnight, Tony Khan should be on the phone with her at 12:01, like getting her on a plane to wherever AEW is. Like, I know they have a big roster. I know the women's division doesn't get that much time on TV, but like if Sasha Banks' contract comes out, you immediately hire Sasha Banks if she wants to work for you, and you do whatever she wants to get her to be there. Like she's a CM Punk, Bryan Danielson type signing for them.
Yeah. Someone posted on Twitter, and again, I didn't write their name down or screen cap the tweet, but they said, "Hey, I'll gladly take Sasha for a trade with MJF if that's not a work.
Right.
I would totally take that too. Like she would do for that division what MJF did as being like the biggest heel. She would draw attention to those girls.
And AEW
in a good way.
The fault to AEW right now is they have two faults. One, they don't book enough women's matches on TV, which I agree they should book more.
I agree with you too.
But like I can see why their reasoning that they're not is because they only have so many, TV ready women's wrestlers. I mean, now they have Toni Storm and Ruby Soho, which they didn't have before. Britt Baker's obviously ready for TV main events. Jade's ready for big TV matches, even not wrestling wise, but like being able to perform on television. She is great at it.
Right.
A lot of their roster isn't. I mean, Thunder Rosa, she's good in the ring, but she's not necessarily the greatest at promos. Just like Serena Deeb, good in the ring, not the greatest at promos. Even Britt Baker is better at promos than she is wrestling. Or Jade, better character than she is at wrestling. But I mean, Sasha Banks can do all of that. And
more.
And so like I think she would bring it up to the point where you'd obviously have to put her on TV. So whatever match she was in would get on TV, and then whatever match Britt Baker or Ruby Soho is in would it would will more matches into like you'd have no choice but to put them on TV now because they'd be so good at it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know. Oh, it's like we said earlier. What a great time to be a fan, and what a great time to be able to be talking about all this. There's so much.
I mean, and there is a chance she doesn't want to wrestle. Maybe she wants to do something else for a while. Like she might not necessarily want to go to AEW. I get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But if she wants to, the thinking of they have too many wrestlers. Like they have too many wrestlers because they've hired a lot of very, very good wrestlers recently, and she would be near the top of that list.
Yeah. Well, I thought a lot of those people were dead weight.
Because like I can see going.
You get my joke?
I get it.
I know.
I can see going. They have a big roster. They don't need to sign anyone. Like they don't. I mean, they have a huge roster right now.
Mm-hmm.
But when like Keith Lee or Malachi Black or whoever Swerve comes up, of course you sign them. You're if they want to work for you, you're ridiculous not to work for them.
Yeah.
Not to have them there.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Say, sorry, Bryan Danielson, we don't have space for you? Like, oh, no, you're not going to do that. That's ludicrous. Right? So, like, so if Sasha Banks wants to work for AEW, they're like, oh, actually, we only have room for one women's match, so we're not going to, no, it's fine. Like, they're not going to do that. That's ridiculous. Like, obviously, they'll sign her if she wants to go there.
And, well, that's the thing, like you were saying, like, she has a pretty big role on The Mandalorian. Which is a great show that everybody should watch. And you'd be allowed, like, obviously WWE let her do that, but I think she kind of had to fight for that, if I'm not mistaken, or from what I read on the internet. Again, not claiming to know anything.
Right, and they would let her. I mean, if she wanted to have a more part-time deal or whatever, like they would give her that.
Yes, that's what I was just going to say. Like they would say, "Oh, okay, yeah, you want to do Mandalorian? Oh, okay, that films every fall. Okay, well then, you won't be a part of all in or all out every fall, but go do your thing. We have you the rest of the time." Like
it's actually odd that WWE, from what I mean, we don't know for sure, but they're not willing to just give her. I mean, I get why you don't want to just give her what she wants, just like how Tony Khan doesn't want to just give MJF whatever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, to an extent, just give them what they want. Like, especially Sasha Banks, all she wants is to wrestle on TV. Like, it's weird that they're not letting her do that.
Yeah, and be respected. Like that's all she wants to be. And the only reason I disagree with don't get me wrong, MJF is great.
Yeah, I agree with what I think you're going to say on MJF.
To me, he's too young. Like he's not proven yet. He's had one real job.
And my issue I think we've talked about this already, so we don't need to go into it more. My issue with MJF is just like the precedent it sets that like you can sign a contract, but then it actually doesn't mean anything because you can just ask for more money. Like he signed a contract. Like next contract, you'll make more.
Yeah, and because you never know. Like, I mean, MJF did the work to get himself over as a heel and blah blah blah, this, that, and the other. But at the beginning, nobody knew that.
Like, of course, new people coming in. MJF being like, MJF 2 years ago or 3 years ago versus CM Punk. Like, clearly CM Punk is going to make more money. Like, clearly.
Yeah. And that should not even be on the table. And I think that's where Tony Khan was coming from.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Like, yeah, like you said, like, Max, like, we're going to pay you, but chill.
Yeah, you have a contract. We're keeping the of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, if like Sasha Banks wants to come in, you give her. She's starting new. I mean, she's starting AEW 2022, not AEW 2019, right? So like, things have changed. We have more money now, right? Like, we don't need to take this back to sports as we always do. But like, I mean, in most non-COVID years, the NHL salary cap goes up every year.
Yeah.
So like someone like Sidney Crosby who makes $8 million, $8.7 million, like he can look at someone like Connor McDavid who makes, I don't know, 10 or 11, 12. I don't know what he makes, but it's a lot. And he could think, oh, why am I not making as much as he is? But they didn't sign at the same time. They signed their contracts, 5 years apart, where like the salary cap is different. The expenses are different. So like, it's the same thing.
Yeah. And you never know who is going to be what. And like Jake Gensel, like, I'll never forget his first game. He literally scored on his first 2 shots he ever took in the NHL. Nobody knew he was going to turn into a 40-goal scorer. And so like that, after that first night, he wasn't like calling his agent saying, hey, I need more money now.
Yeah, young guys in sports are almost always underpaid because they're young and they're new.
Yeah. And you got to kind of prove your worth. I mean, and like I said, MJF did that, but to an extent. Like, I don't know.
And I think Tony Khan would be willing to admit that like, yes, he did that, and he's getting over. And when your next contract comes up, you will get paid more money.
And like I said, that's why he's signed, sealed, and delivered, and that's all happened already.
Right. Anyway, carrying on. So if Sasha came in, she should be the one to beat Jade, which I think is what you, in a roundabout way, what you were asking.
Yes, that's what we were asking.
Yes.
And we'll just leave it at that. That's exactly what I was going to ask you, because I agree with you. I had a very interesting promo after that. You had Jay Lethal call out Samoa Joe and call him soft. I was very surprised that it got that personal.
Yeah.
Do you think this is they're planting seeds for the July Ring of Honor pay-per-view?
Yeah, I feel like it is. I feel like the Samoa Joe, Sanjay Dutt, Jay Lethal thing it's kind of dragging because they're waiting for that pay-per-view.
I agree. That's what I was.
I think they don't want to have the blow-off match on like a random Dynamite. They're going to have it on a Ring of Honor show.
For sure. And like, I like the way they had Joe, like, quote unquote, injured, and we haven't seen Joe.
Right.
I like the way that AEW does that. That's a very, we always talk about like Tony Khan's love of like old wrestling. That is a very like territory / like 70s wrestling.
Right. And like, that's the benefit to having, the huge roster that they have is you can write someone off for a couple shows and the show's fine because someone else will be there.
Yeah, but look, we talked about they're going into this major super show, and Punk, Danielson, Okada, like all these people might not be on it, and
it's still fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And meanwhile, on the other product, Cody gets hurt. The chairman has to step down, and what are they going to do? They brought back Roman Reigns, right? Because they have nobody. Like, or not Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar.
The benefit of the large roster is that they can sub people out, and I mean it's probably it sounds like a weaker point now because just of how many people are injured. But the large roster and the fact that people can take time off, I feel like it's beneficial for everyone's health too. You don't have to be there every single week.
Yes, and the thing that I like about AEW that I never understood, like even as a kid, I never understood the point of a house show. Like, I understand like the point you want to entertain your fans when you have this big company, but why put them through that? Like, oh, you're gonna work 11 days a week,
especially as many house shows as they do. Like, I think they've toned them down now. But I was watching some video once about like the WWF's house show loop in the 90s. And yeah, some guys wrestled 2 or 3 matches a day in different towns. Like it was a lot.
Yeah.
And I still remember, speaking of being a kid, I remember there was some show and one of the announcers said like WWF has no off season. And even as like a 12-year-old, I'm like, yeah, but why not? Everybody else does.
It's funny you brought that up. Like going back to like our lunch table at in high school was like all wrestling. Like that's all we talked about.
So you were the really cool kids.
150,000. And I'll never forget. We were talking one day, and somebody brought up the point like, how cool would it be if, and eventually it kind of a company did this, but how cool would it be if like WWF or WCW had like seasons, like an actual television show,
right?
Where, you're, say The Rock pins Austin, and half the roster in June, just they're off until December. So Rock pins Austin, he gets the belt, and you don't see him because the next group is starting that only wrestle from December till June. Like, we were like, my God, that's amazing. Like, imagine the things that you could do with, like, you could literally have cliffhangers. And that's kind of what Lucha Underground was. It was kind of episodic. They had seasons. It was very interesting.
I feel like that's somewhere that AEW could be going. I mean, not. I don't think they'll do it as strictly as like these 20 guys aren't wrestling for 6 months. But I do feel like they'll be perfectly fine with like some stuff. Someone's just not around for a while, and that's fine. And they don't have to explain where they are because they're just not there because that's their time off.
Yes, and that lets you get your like, if your head's not in it, lets you get your head straight. It lets. I mean, wrestlers always talk about like, oh, you're never really 100% healed,
right?
Like, nagging injuries, sprains, this, that, and the other. Let people heal. Then, like, I couldn't imagine what. I mean, Flair has been fairly lucky. He's never been like super majorly injured. I'm sure he's had broken bones and stuff. But
I mean, he was in a plane crash, but that wasn't wrestling. Yeah,
exactly. But imagine like what the shape his joints and body is in.
Well, like hasn't Hulk Hogan said that he's like a couple inches shorter now because of doing leg drops just from doing the leg drops from like screwing up his back, like it like and like the leg drop at the time, even at the time, was not like a especially risky move. It's a leg drop. Right. But like he did it like he did 400 times a year. Like,
jump up and land on a 1-inch pad on your butt.
Yeah, nonstop every day for 20 years. Yeah.
So
I mean, Hogan won a lot, so he dropped a lot of leg drops. So
and like I just let them heal. Now,
speaking of people who need to heal, we should move on.
What I was
Darby Allin.
That's what I was just gonna say. Speaking of someone who needs some time off to heal, the main event, it put a perfect cap on the Road Rager week. We had Darby Allin versus Bobby Fish. Again, another tag team wrestler that had a hell of a match as a singles guy.
Yeah, for sure.
I have in the notes, Darby is insane. I mean,
when Bobby Fish was doing like the leg screws on the outside, where like Darby was like hitting the guardrail every time, like I'm like that's a lot. Like tone it down a little bit, guy. Like
and he doesn't even like put his hands up. He is like,
No.
he's the Mick Foley of this generation.
And then he takes a German suplex like onto and bounced off the apron, like the corner of the apron.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on.
Yeah, like I mean,
It's
it got me to
entertaining. Like
laugh.
it's definitely entertaining, but like how do you just like get up? I don't understand.
Yeah, like I mean, I also like I know the dude's young, but he ain't like that young. That was very poor English. He isn't that young.
Right.
He's ah
He's
like I
someone to
always
the
say,
point where like I'm starting to get worried about him. Like it's
yeah,
like I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago, even before all the recent Jeff Hardy stuff, being like, you don't have to do that every week.
yeah,
Like
save it.
that's like a pay-per-view. That's like Mick Foley wasn't falling off the Hell in the Cell on a weekly basis.
Right,
He did
right.
it once, right?
Yeah.
Like
And we're still talking about it 25 years later.
right. So like yeah, Darby doesn't need to do that every single match, but he does. And
Yeah,
I mean,
no, and
when it happens, I like pop up. Like obviously, people pop for it, but like
yeah.
it's a little much.
Well, the the fast paced match. These guys, like their cardio is through the freaking roof. It has to
Yeah.
be. I mean, they basically just ran as fast as they could for about 13 minutes.
Right.
The physicality in this match was, I mean, even Bobby Fish took some stuff. When Darby did that suicide dive through the middle rope and like Bobby almost ended up in the third row.
Yeah,
when he caught him.
Darby's suicide dive is great. Like I don't know how he's being launched. I don't
Yes.
understand how he flies like that. Like it's
I always worry that he's going to catch his feet one time. Like,
right.
I'd rather him go over the top rope, but I understand
Right.
it's very hard.
Right.
But like, imagine if he like caught his shoulder or
Right.
like that has to be so well timed
Yeah.
because you can screw yourself up. I mean, anything Darby does, he could screw himself up.
Right.
But as you said, the pace at which he does that is absurd because he's coming out at a full sprint.
Right. And it's interesting. Another you mentioned another tag team guy, but another member of Red Dragon has a really good single showing. They both have now.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks in a row because you had Cal O'Reilly win the Casino Battle Royal and then lose the Mox the week before. So that's very interesting and it's very good booking by Tony Khan. Like I hate to say that we always say he does great things, but he really does great things. He gives us what we want to see.
Right.
How sick was, I don't even know what it was called. Taz knew what it was called, but Darby's counter pin.
Oh yeah, it had a weird name. I forget what it was now.
Yeah, like I didn't know what it was, but whatever that was called that he did, we need to call Excalibur.
Yeah, Excalibur knows. He knows everything.
Yeah, that counter pin was fantastic. I didn't even realize what was happening. That's how cool it was.
Yeah,
like I was like, oh, what's he trying? He's gonna pick him. Oh wait, no, he's pinning him. Like
yeah,
it was. We saw Sting come back.
I like how Sting came back because the lights went out, and then I thought he'd be at the top of the ramp, or he was right there, like right in front of Kyle O'Reilly.
That was very cool, and Kyle O'Reilly had to have a cup on because Sting did not let up on that shot.
Yeah,
we'll just say that.
Yeah,
that looked pretty hard.
Yeah.
All in all, a fabulous match. Fabulous showing for Rampage. Well, both shows. That 3 hours of television this week or last week, pardon me. Very well done, very well booked. You got people involved in storylines now, and you're still setting up Forbidden Door. Like we said earlier in the show here, we don't know the full card yet, and it's 6 days away.
Right. Yeah, I get that it's rushed because of we've talked about all the injuries and changes, people who can't be there, but like they're still doing a good job.
They are, and you know, we're as we talked about last week, and things are really starting to open up, like as far as the world goes.
Right.
And I think maybe even like they like even put some stop gaps in there to say like, hey, well, if we can't do this, let's do this.
Right.
Like if someone has to stay in quarantine longer or blah 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 blah
Or whatever happens, yeah.
yeah. So, there might be different different pathways to still get to the end. So we're going to see that this week. We have we're recording this on a Monday, so we have a couple days, but we'll find out what's going to happen on Wednesday. But before we go, we actually have some fan questions, which is incredible to me. I mean, we have fans, nuts. Like we have a good little group of people that subscribe. Our listens keep going up, so that's good. But the first question we have is from Mark Quill on Twitter, at Mark Quill with a C, MARC. He wanted to know what we think the best AEW original theme music is.
It's a good question.
It's a great question. I actually had two answers, so I couldn't.
I have a couple answers.
Nice.
Off the top, AEW's theme music has been great.
Yeah.
A lot of their stuff is what I really like. Is it's all, I know it's one guy doing it. I think most of it.
Yeah, is that Mikey Ruckus?
Yeah, but it all sounds very unique. Like they're not all the same song. It's not all like generic rock song or generic rap song. Like they're very unique stuff.
Yeah.
If I had to pick my favorite, I think it's Sting.
Sting has a very good entrance.
And one of the reasons I picked Sting is because when he first showed up the very first night, his new theme started. And there's a part of me like that when it goes the doo 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 doo. Part of me thought like, is that Sting? Like I thought it was his WCW song at first, and it does a really good job of like it's kind of his WCW song. It's kind of his WWE song with like the big drums. It's got like a metal component. Like it's kind of all of his themes together.
I never even realized that till this second. But that's
into one song, and that's what I really like about it. And my second option is Adam Cole.
It's all about the boom.
Yeah,
it's a great song.
Just because it's a great song, it has like a good crowd participation to it. And I have some other options, but you can go next.
Well, I'll give two then, and then I have three total.
Okay.
The first one is the Acclaim. From the time I heard the Acclaimed on Dark, that brr, brr, at the beginning, I just thought that was so cool, and then it's just drum and bass, like it's just a beat. And little did I know,
I love when you can tell. I love when you can tell whose song it is from like the very beginning.
Yes, and they obviously had to have that planned that this guy's going to come out and rap over this. But at first, I'm not 100% sure. When he first came in, I'm not sure if he rapped or not. I knew he was like a rapper gimmick, but I don't think he rapped to the ring. And my second is Ricky Starks.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I love Ricky Starks' music. His music,
that's a good one.
Like it has a little New Orleans flair, has a little jazzy flair to it.
I like that.
It's very good. All right,
and then now they kind of mix it with the Powerhouse theme at the beginning. They do like, yeah.
I love when they do that. They have done that a couple times now with people. Swerve and Keith Lee, they do that now with too.
Yeah,
they mix their themes. So go ahead. Who do you have?
And next? my honorable mentions were three somewhat similar sounding songs, but not similar. Proud and Powerfuls, I really like.
That's a good song.
I really like the Lucha Bros. They've had a couple themes, but they'll kind of have the same thing to it. And I actually like Sammy Guevara's theme.
Sammy Guevara.
I think it fits. I think it fits him really well.
Yeah. Sammy does have very good music. Those are good picks. The Lucha Bros music, it took a minute for me to. I don't want to say like I didn't dislike it at first. I thought that I had to learn who they were.
Right.
I didn't realize they were as like super fast paced as they were. So like the first couple of times I heard it, I was like that's kind of like it almost like I don't want it to sound negative when I say it sounds happy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's
I get it.
it's like a song you can listen to, but it's a
Right.
wrestling theme. Like I don't
Right.
know, but it fits them perfectly now. But I didn't know that then. My honorable mention is Swerve. His song is I literally actually listened to it.
Yeah,
It's
it's a good
on my
song.
Apple Music playlist. It's a
It's a
good
good song.
song. Uh, but yeah, those are my three. Um,
Yeah, the AEW. I've said the AEW's music is good. I really like it. I this they don't want to turn this into a taking shots at WWE thing,
no,
but they've recently changed their music people because of like licensing deals and whatever.
mm-hmm.
And I know I don't watch WWE that much, so it makes sense that I don't really know who a lot of the theme what a lot of themes sound like. But like I watched the Rumble, and you'd hear generic rock song, and even the crowd there until the video came up, people were just
Oh,
like,
like
"Who is
people
that?"
didn't know who that was.
Yeah, especially
Yeah,
with like the women's division, like they play a song and people like until they came out, there was no reaction because they all kind of have
like the
just
same.
generic. It's very
Yeah,
generic. There's the big guys have songs that but like
right.
everyone else is like kind of very generic. So I like that they make a point to have it. Everyone has their own kind of style. They're not all the same. I like it.
And going back to someone we were talking about before, um, Sasha, Snoop wrote that song, and Snoop is her cousin, and he owns it, so
Right.
she can use her music in AEW.
I'm assuming it'd be
Speaking of
slightly
Snoop,
different because it has her name in it, so they'd have to change it. But yeah,
oh, see, I didn't even. Well, Snoop could change it.
yeah, Snoop would change it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Snoop, when Snoop did a weird remix of Cody's song, that was a little strange.
Oh, I forgot about that. That was very strange.
It was very weird to have Cody have a Snoop Dogg song.
Yeah. Snoop also did a splash off the top rope. That was
Yes.
that was pretty amazing. Uh, and then we had from a buddy of mine, John Blakemore. Apparently doesn't understand how Twitter works. He texted me when right before we started though, but uh, he's a good dude, but he doesn't like Athena, so we fight all the time. Thinks she's boring. Can you imagine that? Come on, dude. Anyway, sorry I had to get in a few jabs at the fans.
Makes sense.
Yeah. He wanted to know, do you guys think AEW would benefit from having a show kind of like NXT for um, rookies and type things? And I definitely think they would. Um, it would obviously wouldn't hurt.
Yeah,
Uh,
it wouldn't hurt. I feel like they need something. We talked about it earlier that like the women's division they're getting better, but like they have a lot of or had a lot of people who don't really have any TV experience.
right.
And I know that's kind of what they do with like Dark and Elevation. They give people who don't have, but those shows kind of seem like it's people who are just that we don't have room for them on Dynamite. It's
Well, I
not
was going
like
to say
it's
they,
not like developmental as much as it
yeah,
is just like supplementary to Dynamite and
yeah.
Rampage.
They were kind of forced into that with Elevation and Dark because of the roster size. Like
Yeah,
it when Dark and Elevation first started, it would be I'd be like, I have no idea who these people are, so I'm
right,
going to Google them, and they're like,
right,
oh, these are just two indie wrestlers from especially during the pandemic. Like
right. It was
they
like
gave a
guys
lot of
QT is training and stuff. Yeah,
yes, yeah, they gave a lot of people some exposure that probably didn't have any business being on those
right,
shows at that time. But I mean, they had no choice.
right.
Uh, but yeah, I definitely think once Ring of Honor starts rolling, and once coming back to the streaming service, I definitely think when the streaming service hits, they'll have quote unquote developmental or whatever you want to call it, and it
Yeah,
would be on there. Uh, because why not? I mean, you're gonna need content. Like,
right.
don't forget, like
I mean, that's where
WWE had
NXT kind of came from. Is they started off as a
right,
WWE Network thing, like they needed content, so they put NXT on. Like,
and don't forget WWE also had like 30 years of content
right,
prior. Like, AEW
right,
is gonna have three, or
right,
well, depending on when they launch the service. But yeah, like they're gonna have way less content. So any more wrestling you can bring, and to get these people like me and you talked about a few weeks ago. Like when you're an indie wrestler, you're not wrestling in front of the camera every night.
Right. And you can tell the guys in AEW who have TV experience versus those who don't. Like not so much anymore now because a lot of the people who are on Dynamite obviously have TV experience. They've either come from somewhere else or Dynamite's been on for 3 years, so they have.
Right.
But like the first year of Dynamite, like there was a distinct difference between, Jon Moxley and Cody versus some of the other guys. Yeah. Because you could tell Cody had been on national television before. Moxley had been on national television, but like some of them had never worked in front of a camera or not a real camera. Like,
right. Well, a little story. Preston Vance 10. Every time he does the spine buster and he gets up and flexes.
Yeah.
Cody told him to do that because Cody told him, he was like, dude, you're going too fast.
Right.
Like you need something to, you're allowed to stop and play to the camera. So he said, just pick a move and get up and show people how big you are. Show them. And now if you notice, like there's always that moment in the match. It's usually like his comeback in the match. Like he's getting beat down, boom, throws a guy off the ropes, hits the spine buster, stands up and just looks directly at the hard camera and flexes.
Right.
Because he learned that.
And you kind of only learn that stuff from being on TV, from someone watching your show and being like, okay, this was good, but you need to do this or you should do that. Or
And like it's definitely a different show today as it was 3 years ago because people have learned like, hey, this is the hard camera. Hey, save that after the break.
Right. Yeah, the early Dynamites were like they were learning on Dynamite.
Yes.
Whereas like now they're not going to be able to do that. Obviously, like you have to learn somewhere else. So developmental show would work.
Developmental show would work perfectly, and
though NXT has been a really good development brand for AEW.
It really has. I mean,
a lot of their people are from NXT.
Yeah, they have two former world champions, Adam Cole and Keith Lee,
and
Malachi Black was one too. Oh,
and Andrade. Yeah, they have like I think I read somewhere once they have like half of the NXT champions.
Yeah,
in the last 5 years or something, they have like a large percentage of them.
Wow, that is absurd. Dead weight, all bad.
It's
signs.
Absurd only because, and we should end this because it's long, and I don't need to turn this into WWE rant.
Yeah,
but it's absurd that like, why would you spend all that time training somebody to be good for television and then cut them?
Yeah.
Without giving them too many chances to be on television, right?
Well, I was gonna say that's the thing. They put him on the main roster in like a week, and they give him like a week.
Yeah, Keith Lee had a couple weeks on TV, and they're like, yeah, it's not working. Like, come on. I know we've talked about Keith Lee a lot, but in the past of how he got cut from them, he specifically makes no sense to me.
Yeah, he wasn't angry enough. He needed to be more angry. Nobody takes the scholar serious. Like, come on.
It's very confusing. So yes, developmental brand would work. They've been making it work. I mean, without one.
Yeah.
But it would definitely help.
It would definitely, yeah, exactly. Because then you have two stepping stones. You could start them on the developmental, move them up to elevation, put them on dark, get them on the main. You can go right up the ladder.
Because I mean, TV time now on Dynamite is tough to get. So obviously, people need TV time. People need time to grow and to get an audience and to become someone. But they're not going to do it necessarily on Dynamite anymore because Dynamite's packed. Yeah.
In a good way, packed.
Yes, definitely. And it could be a thing. I mean, when someone showed up from NXT on the main roster, I mean, people knew who they were. They immediately got a crowd reaction because people knew who they were.
And you don't have to explain.
And then you change their name and give them new ring gear and new entrance, and that's how that works.
Totally ignore everything they did prior.
That's right.
Then there you go. Who they are anymore.
There you go. And that's how you become $1 billion company.
Yeah. There you go. That's exactly how you do it. On that note, we will say thank you to everybody once again. Another week that was AEW. Please keep subscribing, keep listening.
And if you have any questions, we're at Elite City Pod on Twitter. So if you have anything you want us to talk about next time, let us know. We'll talk about it and take somewhat veiled shots at Vince McMahon while we do it.
Yes, as we do it every week, basically. But the community keeps growing. I think I counted this afternoon. I think we're up to 19 states that
there you go.
We've had people. We have subscribers in now, and we're Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom, where we have subs. So that's blows my mind, and that's super cool. So thank you, everybody. So another week that was, and we're pressed up against the forbidden door, and we are turning the handle and going to walk through it. So until next week, later.